So this is, I'm going to talk on a little bit of a small project that we did jointly recently, Samira and me. This is about not really about the archaeology of megaliths, but about folklore concerning megaliths. This is one aspect which came in during a lot of our field studies, and we decided to take a dedicated look at this folklore legend, especially those which concern small people, that is short people building the megaliths. I'm sure many of you who work with megaliths must have encountered this piece of folklore at some of your sites. So we decided to take a very detailed look at it. So this started way back in 2007 when I first visited the site called Hirabenakal in North Karnataka. So this site, this boy in the picture, Mr. Jambanna, he told me that his grandfather had told him that these structures were built by short people called Morias. So these structures are called Moriara Mane, which means basically that these are the houses of the Morias. Morias are supposed to be the short people, around 3 feet tall, and they were endowed with superhuman strength, and they could lift these huge stone slabs easily and build these structures. And they were the houses, is what they said. So of course, I tried to tell him that these are, sepulchres and memorials of bygone people from the Iron Age and stuff like that, but he wouldn't believe it. So I just dismissed it as a kind of a very curiosity, a story of a curious nature. And then that was my first encounter with this dwarf story in my journey in studying megaliths, actually. And then at this site, there are dolmens, dolmenoid cysts like the one you see in picture, and there are cyst burials also, which you can find in this very extensive megalithic site at Hirabenakal. And then when I joined NIAS, I met Dr. Samira Agnihotri, who was doing a postdoc there. She's a wildlife biologist, actually. She's not an archaeologist. And she works extensively in Veligiri Rangan Tiger Reserve and Kaveri Wildlife Sanctuary, that region. So when we got talking, she started telling me about this curious story that they have, and I completed it for her. I asked her whether is it about dwarfs, and she said, "How do you know that?" And then we realized that the same story is repeated. And here also the structures are called Moriara Mane. Though in this case, mostly they are boulder circles and slab circles like these, enclosing cairns, which are covering cyst burials. That is usually the predominant kind of megalith which is found in the landscape is that. So we did find evidence for one dolmen. Mostly they are cairns and surrounded by boulder and slab circles and covering cyst burials. And here too, they had the same story, the Moriara Mane. So, and after that, when my close friend Benny Kurian in Marayur, he told me the same story about, which is prevalent in Marayur. You can see some of the dolmens of Marayur in this picture. And here, the name is different. The dolmens here are called Pandyan Beru because it's supposed to be the name is different, but the Pandyan Chondian, the dwarf race which built this were again small people with great strength. And in BRT as well as in Marayur, we found another commonality is that they say that for various reasons, they fell out of favor. This dwarf race fell out of favor with the gods, and who destroyed them in a rain of fire. So this story seems to be very consistent over a large geographical region. And then we thought maybe it's a good idea to look at look at the extent of this legend, the spread of this legend, and see what are the commonalities, what are the variations, and wonder, whether, what is the origin of this particular myth or whatever. So when we started out by looking at the literature, we find possibly, and if any of you know better, you can correct me. The earliest reference that I could find about these kind of dwarf people making megaliths is by Captain Congreve, who was in the Madras Army. He, only a couple of decades after Babington talks about the first megalith, he says, and he's quoted by Meadows Taylor here, and he's talking about the belief prevalent at Jevargi, that the Mora people, the supposed dwarfs or whatever, they constructed the remains at Rajan Kolur. The Kalur is site of Rajan Koluru, which you can see in the picture here, one of the dolmens of Rajan Kolur. And Yemmigudda, as far as I understand, is Hirabenakal, and Hegaratki. So these, this sort of a story is quite common in many places in North Karnataka, as was recorded by Meadows Taylor. Okay. Then moving on, we also found a paper by Captain Newbold in 1851. He talks about the site called Panduvaram Deval in currently in Tamil Nadu in the North Arcot district, and he is trying to he's also trying to rationalize why this legend might have come about. And he comes up with this idea that the portholes, which are generally about a foot and a half or something across, okay, and because they're very small, the structure is very small, maybe they gave the idea to this local tradition that this is nothing but a city of pygmies or short people or whatever. Okay, so people have been wondering about this even before. In fact, if you look at a paper by Leshnik, I'll just quote from there. In 1972, he has already noticed that the folk traditions concerning the Pandukal burials are impressively consistent over the large area of their distribution. So he says that the most common legend is that the cyst burials are the retreat of dwarfs or whatever. So a lot of people have noted them in passing. Nobody has looked at it in great detail. So we thought we would try to fill in at least make a start in filling in that gap. A couple of quotations more. So Alexander Rea, 1888, he talks about these megaliths of South India known to the people by various names, which indicate the belief that they're temples and not places of sepulchre. This must be Kovil, I think, what he has written as Kavil. Pandava Kovil, which means that the temple of the Pandavas. Now here you find the first incidents of, beginning of a misunderstanding. Like the moment they hear Pandu or Pandava, they think it's the Pandavas of the Mahabharata. And then, the whole thing that all the megaliths are built by are attributed to the Mahabharata period, the heroes of the Mahabharata story and all that starts from this kind of a conjecture. And then Victor Osner, talking about the Anamalai region, he comes up with, he talks about this, his local guide called Kallavan. He tells the story that the stone houses that you see around were the work of men of small stature, smaller than we are. And then they talk about these dwarfs being the friends of the gods. And later, because these small people started eating one another, cannibalism, the gods were angered and they hurled down fire from the skies and destroyed the dwarfs, and nothing remains of these people except the dolmens and stuff like that, which we see on the landscape today. Okay, so we decided to look at it in some detail and look at, we look at the surviving oral histories which are associated with the megaliths in different parts of South India, and we'll especially try to look at the stories which talk about dwarfs, whatever names that they may have, and we try to establish the extent of their distribution, and maybe these stories can tell us something about migration of people in later periods, maybe, and who came up with these stories to explain the structures on the landscape. Now, one thing which is very clear is that we know that this is not a real story, because the human remains which are there are of normal people. So obviously, the stories are not made by the people who built the megaliths. Okay, these are about people who later came into the landscape and tried to explain, the presence of these strange-looking structures with whatever was at their disposal. So we'll look at that in a little bit more detail towards the end of the presentation. So yeah, our objectives, we try to break it down into smaller objectives. So we wanted to look at the geographical spread of this dwarf legend associated with megaliths. And then we wanted to see the variations in the narrative. So what are the differences that people have in this standard dwarf narrative that you see in related to megaliths? And then do you think, can one conjecture whether this legend and its variations are a result of the propagation of this myth as a result of some people moving around in the landscape? That's something that maybe it could offer clues to. So how we went about that was, to begin with, we started looking at all the sites that are mentioned in literature which have got which have got some kind of association with this little people legends. So Professor Sundara's book is a wonderful, offers a lot of sites. I think at least 6 to 7 sites where there are dwarf legends mentioned. And then, because this word Moriara, Mori and all that seems to be having some sort of connection to the dwarf legend, we thought that we'll look at sites which have got names which sound like derivatives of this Moria, Mori thing. So one example is the site in Mallasandram in Krishnagiri, which is locally called Moral Pare. So when I talked to a friend there, he said, no, Moral Pare just means rough rock. It has nothing to do with Mori. So we thought, anyway, we'll take a chance and go there and look at it. Then a couple of sites in Coorg have names like Mori Kallu, Mori Betta, etc. So we thought we'll go to these also, which sound promising in terms of this dwarf legend. And then we visited as many of these sites. We had a small project given to us by Intac Delhi to look at this. So we had a period of 1 year. Within this 1 year, we visited as many sites as we could and recorded the oral histories as narrated by the oldest people we could find there. Because many times we find that the younger people are not aware of these Mori legends, but you find a 93-year-old, or in one case, a 104-year-old lady who told us these stories about, about the dwarfs there. So we also recorded what kind of megalithic monuments are associated with the legend at each site. In some places you find they're associated with dolmens, some other places even with cyst burials below the ground, you find them associated with that. And then we try to understand the history of settlement in the region, in the sense that the local people are telling about this. How long ago did they come into this landscape? So we try to find that from literature, also by talking to people in the region there. So from that we have, I'll present to you what we have mapped about the extent of the occurrence of the legend. And then we try to arrive at some conjectures about the history of the settlement and migrations, etc., which are a little bit more dicey than that, but the extent is more on a more pakka basis. So the sites that we looked at in the limited time available, we tried to look at Hirabanikal and Biligirangan Hills region, because we first encountered the legend there. And then we also looked at Marayur, Mallapur near Hampi, and Coorg, where there's known occurrence of the little people legend as we could glean from literature. And then we also decided to take on Mallasandram sites, and there's a site called Motra Maradi, which is actually an early Chalukyan quarry near Pattadakal. But because the name Motra, and local people refer to as Motra Uru, the land of the Motra. I don't know what is the Motra, but we thought that it could be the name of a race, and maybe we could try looking at that also. And then we also looked at places in the Karkala Mudibidiri region, where also the place name suggested association with the little people legend. And then, so we looked at Hirabanikal and Onakekindi here. You see an extensive a portion, the western part cluster in the Hirabanikal region, which is mostly dolmenoid cysts and the rough dolmens, which Professor Sundara has termed as irregular polygonal chambers. That's what you're seeing out here. So these in the foreground are the dolmenoid cysts, and in the background you can see the IPCs, as they're called. And then we also looked at a large number of sites in BR Hills and the Kaveri Wildlife Sanctuary. This is a one dolmen-like structure. Only one orthostat is extant now. So this is one of the dolmens that we encountered, surrounded by a boulder circle. Then we also found, when we went there, sites like Mori Oddu and all that, where I can tell you that at all these sites we encountered the Mori legend, the dwarf legend. We also looked at the Marayur region, which we already knew had the story of the dwarfs here. So we looked at this place called Muruganpara, which is near Marayur itself, and sites in the Chinnar Wildlife Sanctuary. The Krishnagiri region, where there was no known association with the Mori legend, but because the site, one of the sites that Mallasandram was called Moralpare, we decided to look at these sites also. And we were very pleasantly surprised when we knew that when we scratched below the surface, we found that they also had a legend of the this one, the little people, and because of because straddling two linguistic regions, they had both names. They had Moriyaramane also as a what do you call it, as a name for these dwarf houses, and they also refer to the people who built it as Panduraru. Okay, this Pandu basically is what, if you remember, the first ever report of a megalith in India, all by Babington, also refers to Pandukuris, okay, the pits of the Pandus or whatever, which were very quickly, hastily associated with the Pandavas. But we found that the local people here talk about Panduraru, Pandavaru and all that, which are not, and they deny that these are the Pandavas of Mahabharata, which unfortunately in literature it seems to have taken an association with that. Then we looked at a few sites in the Malaprabha Valley. These sites which are shown in Benakanavadi, which Professor Padigar had reported a couple of decades ago. And the sites that you see here, what you see in the picture is a site at the Chalukyan quarry called Motra Maradi, which are basically boulder circles. You can't even call it boulder, you could call it rubble circles, which probably might not even be megalithic in the true sense of the word. It could be the graves of the quarry workers of the Chalukyan quarry workers. You don't know unless you do an excavation. You would never know. So we also looked at this site called Mallapur, which you're seeing here. This hillside, it comes north of Hampi actually, and that's where you find. Unfortunately, all the megaliths which seem to have been dolmenoid cysts in this region have been destroyed, except one which partially survives. But we found the Mori story here also in Mallapur and also in Chikkabanikal nearby. So then we looked at a couple of sites in Karkala and Mudibidri. place called Palli near Karkala, and a site called Mairanapade Pade near Mudbidri. And here we did not find the sites in the Malaprabha Valley as well as the site at Karkala Mudbidri. We could not find this Mori legend. So then we looked at Coorg, some of these sites which are, you know, the one they have name also like this, Morikalu, and in Dodamalta it's actually the hillside is called Moribetta. And so here too we found the story, and here you have, even though the places have the name Mori in it, the local people refer to these as Pandava Pare, the dolmens or whatever. The actual monuments are referred to as Pandava Pare. So here too they talk about the Pandavas who are short in stature, and you know, and they built this structure, they had superhuman strength. The story goes similarly. So just to tell you, before I get into this table and stuff like that, I'll tell you about the story in general. So what we found, the most detailed stories we found in Marayur as well as in Veligirirangan Hills. So I'll tell you the Marayur story first. So I can probably go to those pictures of that. Yeah. So here the story goes that there was a dwarf race called Pandyan Chondian who were very skilled at agriculture. So they were very good agriculturists. They grew a lot of crops, but they were very selfish. So they would not share their food with the birds or animals that you know, lived in the landscape, nor with the other people who shared the landscape with them. So the people go to their god called Sanchali and complain about these people, and Sanchali warns them that you should share your produce with all the other creatures which inhabit the landscape. And then because these people do not do it, Sanchali gets angry and sends down a rain of hail, you know, hard stone-like formations of water. And then these people build this dolmen-like structures and take shelter in that. And afterwards, they again go about their selfish ways of growing crops and satisfying only themselves and not sharing with any of the other creatures which inhabit the landscape. And then this time, Sanchali sends down a rain of fire. So these people build similar structures below the ground, which are the cyst burials actually, and also urns, and they cover themselves with earth. And in that condition, they die. So this is actually a very detailed story because it tells you why you do not find, it kind of explains why you do not find human remains in these structures above the ground like dolmens, but you find human remains in the structures that are below the ground, like cyst burials as well as urn burials. So this is one of the detailed stories that we could find. And then Veligirirangan Hills, the story that goes is that these superhuman dwarves called Morias, so they were building these structures and living happily in the landscape. And then they anger the gods by defecating towards the sun with their you know, rear ends towards the sun. Okay, so they get very upset with their rude manners and sends down a hail of fire, a rain of fire, sorry, which kills off these people. So these are the two detailed stories that we could find about in the landscape. And then you could find you know, slightly different versions of it in different places. Like here too, there was a story of the dwarfs, but the story, maybe because the people we met did not remember that part or whatever, the part about the rain of fire was not there in this site. Okay, similarly, in this place, we could not find any story because the local people who live there today moved into the landscape only about 60 years ago. So they do not have any stories for this. If they talk to them, they only talk about the Chalukyan quarry and the inscriptions there, and they do not have any sense of history before that. And Mallapur gave us a very detailed story because one of the old residents of this village, he was 93 years old, and he told us about a story where, you know, the Moris used to, he talked about a local water body where the Moris used to drink water from, and he said that they created these structures and then they died in a rain of fire. So at Mallapur and Chikmagalur also we could get a similar story. And again, the site called Mairanapade, when it was initially, the spelling that we saw in literature was Mairanapade. So we thought that it is some derivative of Mori. But we went there and we find that Mairanapade actually is Tulu for, because there are a lot of peacocks come here in the evening to roost on top of the structure. So that's why they call it Mairanapade. So it doesn't have anything to do with Moris or dwarves or whatever. And in Coorg too, we found the story. And here they call the people the Panduraru, Pandavaru, Panduraru. All that is you can refer to. They are referred to in this place. And they also have names, like I said, Morikallu as well as Moribetta, and stuff like that. So you do find the prevalence of the legend here. So now let us look at the play. So here we have collected a list of the place names or the names given to the megalithic actual megalithic structures, and where it is located, and which paper we have taken it from. So you find that in the Nilgiris, Breeks talks about Moryaramane and Pandavaramane here. And then Perisandra, Cole talks about the tombs of the Pandavas. It's basically Pandu tombs or whatever. And Professor Sundara had alerted me to this very interesting reference to in a historical inscription, the 7th century Ganga inscription, while describing the properties adjoining a plot of land. They talk about in one direction something called Moryaramala. So it shows that it was in vogue even in the 7th century when this inscription was made. Then Radhan Kolur, Meadows Taylor talks about it, the Mori Manni Munni, I don't know how to pronounce this. Then Victor Rosner talks in Annamalai, I already shown you about Pandyan Veedu Parai. Then Marayur, of course, we have Pandyan Chondian, which Benny Kurian has alerted me to this, and the interviews we took in that place. So another term which we found associated with, we have now talked about Mori or Moria, and also Pandyan Chondian, okay, and Panduraru. But there's also something which is, these structures are known as Vali Veedu, which again everyone talks about, Ramayana, Vali, and the armies of Rama, the monkey armies of Rama and all that. But there is a reference to, Valiru. There's a reference to dwarves called Valiru also. So this Vali must have come from Valiru rather than the Vali of Ramayana. And Pandikote, again, people have wondered whether it is a fort of the Pandyas or whether it's, this all comes from that same root of Pandu or Panduraru from there here. And then in Hyderabad, we hear about Rakshasa Galu. This is the only place we heard about a different name, which doesn't seem to have any, maybe if at all, it might have something to do with giants rather than dwarves. Then here, Marayur also we talk about Vali Veedu, Pandukuri. Muniyara is a later, compilation probably. And locally, what the local tribes, especially here, it's very interesting because the local Muduan tribes, which moved into the landscape about 600 years ago, they do not have the story of the. So the story is definitely older than 600 years, and it is more prevalent among the other tribes there, like the Karavari Pulaya and certain other tribes which Benny had introduced us to. There you have the story about the dwarf race or whatever. And then again, these are some of the other names that we could collect for Annamalai. And then Hirabanikal, of course, Moryaramane, the repetition of that. And the Moribetta, Morikallu, etc. here. And then again, from literature only, we haven't been to this place. Murikallu, which could be another version of Mori, and Moriyarakal in Bargur Hills. Moral Parai, like I mentioned, in Krishnagiri. Then Pandyan Mukhi. These are also, we have also made a list of the different types of names that people give to this dwarf race, which varies from Pandu, Pandyan, Panduraru to Moria, Mori, etc. And also Valiru in certain parts of Tamil Nadu. And one word which you could find only in one site is a little strange word. It's called Gelilo. And that was found in a site near Krishnagiri. And of course, Pandukuris also come from the root word Pandu. And Motra Maradi, unfortunately, we couldn't find any clues because the people living in that area have moved, like I told you, only about a generation ago. And other interesting thing which is pointed out by Kenneth Kennedy is the use of this term Valikilya. The Valikilya is mentioned as a tiny sages who were so tiny that they found a hoof print of a cow filled in with water, very difficult to cross or something like that. Okay, so is that the root word from which the Valiers came about? I don't know. In Professor Rajan mentioned the legend about dwarf race called Valiers, and at Motur. Then the other Kullar Guhe. Kullar already means dwarfs, I guess. So you can see the other names that are there in different places. Mallapur, it's called Sanna Moriyar Tatte. There again, the root word is Moriyar. And then we found in Meadows Taylor's one of the tables that he had given, a word called Gujri, which is supposedly in Dharmavaram. We haven't visited the site, so we cannot say anything about that. So now, this is from our surveys. So the different sites that we have looked at. So we are trying to look at which is the site we have mentioned here. What are the local names that people have given there? and what are the types of megaliths found there, and the details about the legend. So in Hirabanikal, Mallapur, Chikkabanikal, all of them which are just north of Hampi, you find that one place is called Moriyara Gudda, which is Hirabanikal, and Sanna Moriyar Tatte, which is near Mallapur. And you have dolmens, dolmenoid cysts, and crude dolmens, one's called irregular polygonal chambers. And here the dwarf race is called Morias. Again, in Kaveri Wildlife Sanctuary, these 4 sites that we looked at. Okay, here the megaliths are mostly cairns with boulder circles, like I showed you in one of the previous, and they cover cysts. And only one possible dolmen in a dilapidated state we could encounter. And the dwarf race here is called Moriyaru or Pandavaru rather. And the BR Hills, the 4 sites that we looked at here again, it's mostly boulder circles enclosing cysts. Some of them have cairns and some of them do not have also. They just have the boulder circles. Here they talk about the dwarf race called Moriyaru, and they talk about them being destroyed, getting extinct in a rain of embers. So in Marayur, again, the dwarf race is called Pandyan Chondian, and they're destroyed in a rain of fire. Krishnagiri, we looked at 4 sites in that region. There the site is called, one place called Moral Pare, and another one is called Morilu Bande. Here we have dolmens, dolmenoids is surrounded by slab circles, and you also have IPCs at the site called Etrapalli. And here the dwarf race is called Pandavaru or Panduraru. And one of the sites at Kengaliri, we found a reference to where he said is like half a foot, and it's called Galilo in that site. In the Malaprabha Valley, we could not find any story because all the people who live there have moved in recently. And in Palli in Karkala, we could not find the dwarf legend. They had another local legend here, which is about anybody who wanted to get married could go to the megalith and request, and they would get a bunch of gold, which they could use for the wedding, and they were supposed to return it. And finally, one lady decides to keep a small piece of jewelry for herself, and then the megalith stopped loaning out gold for marriages or whatever. So this is a very different story that we encountered, where there is no mention of the dwarf thing at all. And Coorg is a very rich collection of stories that we got from there. And you can see 2 of the sites have Mori in their name, Morikallu, Moribetta. And then here the mostly are dolmens with surrounded by slab circles. Sometimes they have cairns covering part of it. And then you have cyst burials with cairns and boulder circles also. So these are the monuments that are associated with it. So as far as we could ascertain, menhirs are never associated with this dwarf story, except at one of the stone alignment sites which have been reported by Meadows Taylor. He talks about a set of dwarfs who were, fixing places for the king's elephants to be tied, and then the dwarf king's elephants to be tied because they were making a lot of noise. He turned them all to stone, and that's why they are in a grid like a stone alignment. That's the only case in literature, only that too, which we could find where this legend was associated with menhirs. Otherwise, they seem to be associated mainly with cyst burials, urn burials also in Marayur, covered with cairns and surrounded by boulder circles, and obviously dolmens and dolmenoid cysts also. So ultimately, what we have done is that we have extended the extent of the legend. It's all over I suspect it's much larger than what we have been able to find in the limited time. It might be covering all of South India. So if you dig harder, talk to old people who have been living in that place for a long time, you will most probably, because after this project was completed, we went to look at the megaliths in Bannerghatta, where also near Bangalore, where also we found the story. So it looks likely that the story is quite widespread. Now, why is it widespread? That is a question. Why does such a similar story occur over such a large geographical region? So, like I told you, it's almost sure that, it is sure that the stories are made up by people who did not build the megaliths, but moved into a landscape which already held these monuments. And they explained it in terms of probably some kind of cultural memory that they retain. We know about dwarf races of humans, hominins rather, coexisting with the human race, and probably there's some kind of a transmitted cultural memory. This is only a wild conjecture, like you have the Homo florescensis, which lived along with modern humans also for at least some point of time. So probably there is a strong cultural memory that of dwarf human-like creatures walking around, which is transmitted to people. And when they see these low dolmens and with small portholes and things like that, they kind of build up these stories, which are so by tracking these legends all over South India, we can talk about later migration. The people moved around and brought these stories along with them. Probably this is just a hunch. So the outcomes, what we have been able to come up with is that we have enlarged the known extent of this dwarf people legend related to South Indian megaliths, and we have shown that it is much more widely prevalent than previously recorded, or even thought about previously. And about 24, that 24 has now increased to 29 sites or something like that. And more than 20 sites we have found this legend. And probably if more investigation could be done at a place like Mottaramaridi, for example, you might come up with the same legend. I strongly feel that you might come up with a similar kind of legend there too. And then we could enlarge the set of terms that they've been using for this extinct race of dwarfs: Mori, Pandu, Panduraru, and then the Galilo, Gujri, all those kind of things, Pandyan Chondian. Okay, and some of them are Galilo and all is unrecorded so far in the literature. And so also we've been able to clear the air about some of these misconceptions that whenever you hear Pandu, it doesn't mean that it is Pandavas of Mahabharata, okay, or the Pandyan dynasty. When they hear Pandikote, it doesn't mean that the fort of the Pandyas or whatever. And so there is a what do you call? At least at 3 sites we have recorded where we asked them questions specifically: are we talking about the Pandavas of Mahabharata? They said no, they are not. And we can trace it to that quotation that I told you, where people think that, okay, it is ubiquitous that everything in India is either associated, a big stone, so they say Bhima picked it up or something like that. So that association, we have kind of misled people about what the legend actually was talking about. And then we've been able to conjecture with, at least in places like Marayur and all that, the time period over which this legend originated and could have propagated. And so we have some kind of broadly accepted timeline for the construction of megaliths, the time period of that, and then combining it to the data for when different indigenous people moved into the landscape, you can kind of set time limits into in which the period this legend could have originated and spread around the landscape. So we have summarized the findings in this paper, which is published recently in the Intact Journal of Heritage Studies. And so more details of, and we're coming out with a comprehensive report which will be published by NIAS, which will contain all the raw data. So hopefully this can be a starting point for people to look at these stories in all the megalithic landscape that they are studying. And I'm sure we can, I'm sure that even looking at such a very far-fetched kind of a legend can give you clues about, movement of people, and maybe in the later periods, but even about that. So we need to thank Intact for supporting our travels and studies about regarding this project. We also need to thank a lot of people, especially the older people at the various sites. At this is our young friends at Hiravanakal, at Mallapur, and BR Hills and near Karkala. My friends Benny Kurian and Ajit, who have been very helpful in all the travels in Marayur region, especially. Mr. Murugan for Krishnagiri region. And thank you for your attention.